Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 4 of Logistics 36045. This week, we're going to take a look at chapter 9, I believe it is, which is the warehousing component. Warehousing is definitely a simple topic to put your grasp around, but it also has many layers that bring value to the business. Um, Warehousing can be very strategic. It supports your operations. Most people think that you have to own your warehouse, that it has to be on your premise, that it has to be your physical asset, but that is a very quick diminishing trend. Um, a lot of manufacturers are discovering that um, if they contract out to a third party warehouse, they can take the square footage that was used for storage in their facility and turn it into production, and they can use it for their core competency and generate more revenue per square footage. And they can often find that the third party warehouse company has a lower cost per square footage. They have a lower overhead, they have a lower labor cost to do that for the manufacturer than the manufacturer does itself. So the warehousing function of logistics does contribute some value. It is a key component because it is great. You move stuff across the world, but when it's not moving, where do you put it? You have to put it in a warehouse. So traditionally the warehouse is viewed as a place to hold and store inventory. The contemporary view is that the warehouse functions to mix inventory assortments to meet customer requirements. So you're going to try to hold as much of everything as you can in your warehouse to meet all your customer needs. But you do want to keep your inventory levels to a functional minimum, just enough to meet your demands without overextending your capital. So when you think about the history of warehouses to where we are today, warehouses, they once were this necessary evil that we had to have to coordinate product supply with customer demand. And after World War II, coming out of the Great Depression, when we saw this consumerism, we saw the U.S. economy just boom and just take off. Um, there was a need for a not just more warehousing, but more warehousing strategically located for distribution networks. You saw some of the early retailers such as Woolworth or Sears, um, or the five and dime chains. They really started to grow, and they had to have this network of warehouses to supply their local stores. And warehouse shifted from being this passive storage of, hey, I've got a warehouse, it's 2 miles away, I keep everything in it, to being a strategic asset. Um, if you could have the right warehouses in the right locations with the right product, you had a competitive advantage over your competitor. So as we look at this, they've evolved to being more than just where we keep our things. There are different types of warehouses. There's a distribution center, which we've talked about, Walmart, or we've talked about Amazon. These are places where product comes in and then it is distributed out through your value chain. There are consolidation terminals. This is very common in the freight industry. If you think about a truck company like ABF Freight, they will, they have cross docks all over the country, but then they'll have consolidation terminals maybe in key cities or maybe at key intersections. So in southern Illinois, where I-70 meets I-55 between um, Carbondale and St. Louis, I mean, that's a very key intersection because 55 will run up to Chicago, into Milwaukee, Minnesota. It runs down through Memphis, down to the port of New Orleans. 70 runs across the country. A lot of truck companies are going to have consolidation terminals at those areas so that when you're carrying LTL, less than a truckload freight, the truck will come there, it will offload, they'll scan barcodes, and they'll send it out on trucks to other points across the country. Think of it as a super cross dock. Break bulk facilities. So someone like a Walmart is going to have these where they may purchase large bulk multi-container shipments of items. So, for example, let's say Walmart, they have their Fade It Glory clothing line, and let's say they have 10 containers come in, and it's purely just Fade It Glory T-shirts. Those will go to a break bulk facility. They'll open the containers up, and they'll say we've got 4 containers of large, 4 containers of extra large, 5 containers of medium, and then they'll break them up and say we need to send this to a DC in the West Coast, this to a DC in the East Coast, this to a DC in the Midwest, this to a DC in the Great Plains, and this to a DC in the Southeast. So that's where they break down bulk shipments to go out to the distribution centers. So look at it as almost like a reverse consolidation terminal. And then cross docks, I talked about that with the consolidation terminal. That's it's a regional function, and it's a cross dock. It's a long concrete platform raised up off the ground about the height of a semi trailer, and you'll have all the trucks for ABF Freight or JB Hunt or Schneider Trucking. They pull into their local cross dock, they back in, and they say half this truckload I have needs to go to St. Louis, half of it needs to go to Amarillo, and they pull it off, and they have a truck that is going to St. Louis, a truck that is going to Amarillo, and they put that, and then the truck that came off of might be going to Greensboro, North Carolina, so stuff going to the Greensboro area goes on the back of that truck. So warehousing can be a very strategic integral part when you look at lean manufacturing, and if you consider that it can be just in time. So you look at the automotive industry, the Toyotas and the Hondas, they don't keep inventory in their factory. They keep just enough to run a shift. They use a third-party warehouse that's located off-site. Their suppliers, their tier one suppliers, will ship into that warehouse, and then that third-party warehouse or housing company will bring over 8 hours worth of materials, and they bring it over at the start of every shift, and that's called just in time. It's brought over just in time to be used. So an important goal in warehousing is you want to maximize your flexibility. You want to use your floor space to generate as much revenue per square foot as possible. And you want to be able to be flexible. You want to be able to respond to customer demand, how it changes. You want to have product assortments. You want to be able to have value-added services. So if you need to do quality sorts, if you need to do incoming inspection, if you need to do RFID tracking, you want to be able to have all that in your warehouse. You also want to look at the economic benefits of a warehouse. So are you getting the best price per square footage? Are you able to use it for some value-added cost savings where you can bring in large shipments, break them down, ship them out? Are you able to do sorting? Are you able to do seasonal storage? Reverse logistics is growing and growing now. That's the chain of logistics from the customer back to Amazon. So if you think Amazon has worked out something fantastic to where you don't ship your product to Amazon, you drop it off at Kohl's. Kohl's takes it to their DC, and then Amazon picks it up. So consolidation and break bulk reduce transportation costs. So by doing this, you can have a massive truckload and then you break it down. So consolidation, it's going to occur when a warehouse receives materials from a number of sources and then combines them into exact quantities for a specific destination. So this is going to happen at like a Walmart. Let's say that Walmart is buying Coleman sleeping bags, and Coleman is manufacturing these sleeping bags in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Walmart has a distribution center in Omaha. Coleman will actually ship them to Omaha, and then Walmart will then break it down at that Omaha distribution center and ship that out with other products going to Los Angeles, to St. Louis, to Nashville, to Birmingham. And then that break bulk, we talked about it earlier, that occurs when a warehouse receives a single large shipment and is breaking it down, such as you get those 18 containers of socks, and you got to break it down to every DC that it goes to. So, there's some good diagrams in your book that talk about cross-docking and the efficiencies you can get from cross-docking. So successful cross-docking is highly dependent on information technology. Cross-docking used to be a highly manual process where you'd have to look at every package and you'd put it on the pallet going to that city. And now it's RFID technology, and it's automatically scanned and redirected on conveyors within the cross docks. So the products are received, they're selected, they're repackaged, they're loaded for shipment, they're scanned, and the conveyors are automatically putting them into the truck they need to go to. So, when you look at assembly supporting manufacturing operations, assembly occurs when products or components from second-tier suppliers are going to be assembled at a warehouse that is located near the manufacturing plant. Some common assembly processes are packaging and color customization. So this could be Walmart could buy their batteries in bulk from Procter & Gamble, who makes Duracell. Duracell. And then they could just get large crates of batteries. Well, Walmart could have a third-party warehouse that actually then opens that up and puts them into packs of 5 or packs of 6. Seasonal storage, we highlighted that, but a little bit more about that. Seasonal storage is providing direct benefit by accommodating production or demand. So, a big consumer of seasonal production or seasonal warehousing is seasonal production items such as agriculture. If you think about it, you only harvest your corn and your soybeans in the fall. You only harvest your wheat in the early summer. So you don't need dedicated year-round storage for your wheat, for your corn, for your soybeans. You may have seasonal storage for those. Seasonal demand can be lawn furniture, can be toys. Toys R Us, when they were still existing, they may have had 10 distribution centers in the U.S., but August through November, when they were building up inventory for Christmas, they may have leased an additional 20, but they didn't need 30 for the entire year. They needed 10, so they would do some seasonal storage. So we talked a little bit about reverse logistics. That's returns management. It can also include remanufacturing and repair, and it can also be, what was it I just bought recently? I bought something that had a battery, and I bought a new battery for, I think it was my cordless drill, and DeWalt actually sent me a package and a label to send my old one back to them so that they could dispose of it versus me trying to dispose of it. So some of the service benefits of warehousing, we look at spot stocking, and this is the positioning of inventory for seasonal promotional demand. It's having it ready when it's needed. Full line stocking provides one-stop shopping and capability for goods from multiple suppliers. So, this is something full line stocking. That's going to be what Honda or Toyota uses at their third-party warehouse. And then value-added services, that's like we talked about. Walmart may have a third-party warehouse that stores batteries that come in bulk, and then they repackage them for them. So, an objective of warehousing operations is to efficiently receive and store inventory, and to store it properly so that it can be retrieved. So it's you want to store it, but you also want to be able to retrieve it properly. You want to be able to assemble it into complete orders, and you want to be able to take that, and this goes back to the retrieving properly, and make sure that it's a proper customer shipment. Operations will therefore emphasize product flow. So operational warehousing has to be very efficient because oftentimes there's many, many other parts of the business that rely heavily on them. So handling, this is, the guy driving the fork truck, the guy pushing the pallet jack, the guy moving boxes himself. It must be optimized. Movement continuity and efficient. We want to limit the touches, and we want to make the touches as impactful as possible. We want to make sure that when we're receiving, we're unloading the vehicles quickly, we're doing the work right, we're putting it in the right spot, we're not moving it anymore we need to. So slotting is going to determine specific locations for the product based upon the velocity, so how fast the goods move. So you may put product that does not move very often in the back part of the warehouse. You may put it up on the high shelves, whereas the fast movers are going to be on the lower shelves. Weight, heavy product is going to go on the lower shelves. Sometimes it can't even go on the rack. And then special characteristics. So is it large? Is it small? Does it require a cold temperature? Is it a hazmat? So your warehouse has to be prepared to store whatever is possibly coming. So active storage is storage for basic inventory replenishment. It's going to be focusing on quick moving inventories. It's going to have a flow through or a cross dock. You're just going to constantly move it. You know how it's going to move. It's always going to be perfect. Extended storage is going to be for inventory held in excess of a normal period, of normal replenishment. So this is going to be some of the seasonal, some of the speculative, or even commodities, agricultural commodities. So when we speak about commodities, oftentimes that is those agricultural commodities. So, looking at warehouse ownership arrangements, you have private and public warehousing. So a private warehouse is operated by the firm that owns the product. So a great example of this is Walmart's distribution center. Walmart owns that building. It's only Walmart stuff in there. The building may be owned by Walmart, it may be leased by Walmart, but the building is controlled and operated by Walmart. So public is a service company. So by public, it does mean the government. It does not mean the government. It does not mean the state. It means that a public, it's anyone can utilize this company. Um, they own the warehouse and they hire out the space and the services. XPO Logistics is one that does this. Roche, where I work, we utilize Kuehne+Nagel, which is a German company. We also utilize Schenker, which is another German company, but they operate warehouses around the world and they store for us and they do all the inventory handling and they ship to us as we need it. So contract warehousing, which I just talked about with like a Kuehne+Nagel or a Schenker or an XPO, they combine elements of private and public operations. So, for example, you could have a Kuehne+Nagel warehouse that is specifically handling product for Johnson & Johnson. So it is a public warehouse in the theory that Kuehne+Nagel owns it, but it is a private warehouse in the fact that it's dedicated solely to Johnson & Johnson. Another example is Kraft Foods is contracted with Americold Logistics. Americold, anyone can contact Americold to keep tab for cold room storage, but they are going to have some warehouses that are just for Kraft. Network deployment. So network deployment strategy requires answering two questions. How many warehouses do you want, should you have established? And which warehouse ownership types should you be using? You may look at, it makes sense to have a warehouse in Chicago. It makes sense to have a warehouse in Terre Haute. It makes sense to have a warehouse in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And you may look at it and say, Terre Haute and Spartanburg, they're smaller towns, they're depressed real estate markets. We can probably buy a warehouse there for cheap. Or you may say, I don't want to buy it there because it may not hold its value. So you need to look at, do you want to invest? Is it financially feasible to invest? Is an investment that's going to go up? And every situation is going to be different. So you have to have the right people on your team that evaluate these decisions. So some of the warehouse decisions that are determining handling and storage efficiency, you look at your site. Do you have easy access to rail, sea, roads? Is it easily access to transportation points? How is it designed? Is it going to be, I guess the question is it going to be shorten a big footprint? Is it going to be tall? Are you going to store up, store out? What type of products are you storing there? Do you need cold storage? Do you have temperature specific storage? Are you storing maybe electronics that you need to have ESD, which is electrostatic discharge in your plant? So any static could ruin electronic chips. Do you want to be able to expand? Are you going to have a warehouse management system? If so, do you need to put guiding beacons in the floor to drive automatic drones like Amazon uses? And then what type of security do you need? Are you going to be handling Department of Defense? Are you going to be handling government goods? Does there need to be heightened security? So that's just kind of a real high level of a lot of those warehousing decisions. And you also have to consider if you're using a warehouse management system. So this warehouse management system, it integrates procedures and software to help standardize the storage and handling work procedures. WMS systems they're incredibly growing in their relevance. And it can be a small, discrete solution that's minimally invasive, that does work assignments and helps you maximize how you pack boxes, or it could be fully automated. So really, WMS can be done to fit your organization's needs and budget. So overall, that's kind of a high-level look at warehousing. If you guys have any questions on the material this week, please do not hesitate to reach out. As always, I'm here to help. I'm here to facilitate. A few of you have asked, is it okay if you turn assignments late? I just want to remind you, please, if you need to turn something in late, reach out to me in advance. If you reach out to me in advance, there often will not be a penalty. If you reach out to me after the deadline, there probably will be a 10% penalty. So I hope everyone's having a good week, and I will talk to everyone in discussion boards and via email soon.